JC here with a video that will show you how to create broadcast quality MP3 files from your CDs and WAV audio files. Now you can finally digitally archive that CD collection and have the convenience and quality that hard drive based audio can give you. We'll look at two open source applications in the world-renowned LAME MP3 encoder. MP3 audio has a bad rap among audio professionals for good reason. Many MP3 files, even some which are commercially available at music download sites, can just sound awful. Low bit rates and bad encoder setup are the main reason. This video will introduce you to some basic concepts that will help you create really great sounding MP3 files. The first application we're going to talk about is Audiograbber. Audiograbber is a tool that allows you to take audio from a CD and directly convert it into MP3 or WAV files. In order to be able to create MP3s, Audiograbber needs to have access to the LAME encoder. So before we get into Audiograbber, we'll talk about putting LAME on your computer and where you can get it. LAME is an open source MP3 encoder. You need an MP3 encoder in order to create an MP3. Most operating systems already come with an MP3 decoder. The encoders and decoders are known collectively as codecs, which is short for code decode. So, in order to create high-quality LAME MP3s, you will need to get your hands on the LAME encoding codec. Unfortunately, if you come to the LAME website here, you're not going to find that codec in a form that you can use to create an MP3 file. What you're going to get here is the original source code. That source code needs to be compiled into a file or an application of its own in order to be able to actually do the work. Since we're using Audiograbber, what we really need to find is the LAME DLL file, which is simply a file that applications can use to create MP3 files. And a lot of great open source software such as Audacity, Audiograbber, and EAC use the LAME DLL. So we have to put this DLL on our computer. The quickest and dirtiest way to get your hands on it is to come to dlldump.com and do a search for the lame_enc.dll. This is exactly what the applications will be looking for. So to get that, all you do is put it in the search here, run the search, tell it that you want to search on the site, and the first thing that should come up is the LAME DLL file right here. To get that file, just come down here and click Download the DLL. Now, a DLL file might be considered a danger by some antivirus and browsers, so you'll have to go ahead and allow the downloading of that file. Now that we have the DLL file downloaded, we need to put it in a place where applications can find it if they need it. Most open DLLs need to be in the System32 folder in Windows. So all we have to do is go to our Windows directory, and this applies to all versions of Windows, and find a folder in that Windows directory called System32. Now, what you'll need to do is copy this DLL file into this folder. Make sure you don't put it in any of the directories in the folder. It needs to be open and in the folder. And I say copy it here because we may need to put a copy of the DLL in the actual program application folder for an application that's looking for it there. But most applications search for that DLL file in the System32 folder. So if you simply drag it over and copy it here, it should work just fine. Now that we have LAME installed on the computer, we need to make sure that Audiograbber is seeing the DLL file and also that it is configured properly. And the way to do that is to go to your settings in the menus up top and then choose MP3 settings. You'll get a dialog box which looks like this, and I'm going to go through the settings that we need very quickly here. First of all, drop down your list, choose LAME from the list. Do not choose this commercial MP3 encoder. That is the OEM encoder that comes with the Windows operating system and creates very poor quality MP3 files. We want to choose LAME. And we need to set it up this way. 192 constant bit rate. A constant bit rate will ensure compatibility with MP3 players and all software. VBRs, which is a variable bit rate, can sometimes not be compatible with all players, and compatibility is one of the main reasons that we're using the MP3 file format. 192 seems to be the best bit rate. It's a nice trade-off between file size and quality. You can go higher than that. However, it's just going to make bigger files, and the increase in sound quality will be very slight. Down here, make sure that you choose stereo and not dual stereo or joint stereo. These are inferior quality to the full stereo setting. Make sure that you have it set to the highest quality. High quality will take a little longer to encode, however, it will make the best sounding files. You can leave these metabits unticked. I usually have just the original ticked down here, which is nothing more than a bit that's applied to the header of the MP3 file. Make sure that you do not click the CRC bit, because some applications that read MP3 files will see this as an error even if the file does not have any errors. So go ahead and leave that unchecked. It's just metadata anyway. Up here we want to choose create an MP3 from an intermediate WAV file, and then we will delete the WAV file. And once we get into normalization, you'll understand why. Normalizing an audio file means to set that file to a preset level, volume-wise. Unfortunately, when you're talking about volume, there are two ways to look at that. There is the peak volume, which means the absolute loudest thing in the file, and the average volume, which means how loud it sounds to your ears. For the best performance from the lame encoder, we want the highest peak volume we can possibly get to that encoder without clipping. And to set that up, we will use normalizing, and we will set the peak normalizer to 98%, not 99 and not 100. Anything above 98% will cause clipping in the lame encoder and will degrade the audio of our file. So set this to 98%, and don't worry about the greater than or less than values. And if you go into advanced, you'll notice that you can set up an average. We're going to have another application that's going to take care of that for us, and it's going to do it in a more quality conscious way than Audiograbber does. So just set Audiograbber up to normalize everything to 98%. Now that we have the audio portion of Audiograbber set up, we need to look at a couple of other settings. First of all, naming conventions. The way Audiograbber names your MP3 files when they're created is it uses information from the FreeDB database. Your CD, even if it has CD text, does not contain this information, and Audiograbber doesn't read it. It has to go find it online. So you'll have to set up a FreeDB account in order to be able to get that information, which is extremely easy to do. The normal naming convention is artist space hyphen space title, and most MP3 files are named this way. However, you can change that in your own system however you'd like. You can add track numbers from the CDs, album titles, and anything else that appears in the FreeDB database. And it's all done by putting these values here into this box, and it may take a little experimentation to get the naming convention you want, but it's not that big a deal. Down here, you'll see that this is the settings for your actual CD reader, and you select it from the list here if you have more than one in your computer. Most of the time, this stuff here is automatic and doesn't need to be fooled with, but if you're having some problems, you may want to go back and look at it. One of the settings that I use here is to rip as much audio to RAM as possible. And of course, this depends on how much RAM is in your computer. I use 512 megabytes. And just for reference, that's 50 minutes of uncompressed audio from a CD. Letting the program store that in memory instead of on the hard drive will make it run a lot faster and actually make it just a bit more reliable. So set that accordingly. 256 is good. It depends on how much memory your machine has. If you have more than 2 gigs, 512 is more than appropriate. If your MP3 sounds good, then you're all done. One more note about Audiograbber. Audiograbber will also create MP3 files from 44.1 16 WAV files that you would export from your audio editor. To do that, simply go to the MP3 tab, and as you can see here, you can browse for any file and convert that into an MP3.